When you're dealing with a narcissist or another very controlling personality, everything has to be on their terms. There's very little flexibility. There's very little compromise. You basically have to give in to doing things the way they want. You have to have a certain approach which doesn't offend them, that they're happy with, and you basically fully converge towards them, and they really don't take one step and kind of meeting you halfway. The thing about narcissists and very controlling people is they have a very narrow kind of world that they construct, and it's a very narrow world in a sense that they only feel safe if they have full control over their world. But to have full control over your world, you live in a very small world, because the bigger the world you want to live in, the more you want to achieve, the more risks you have to take, the more situations you put yourself in where you don't have control. But the vast majority of narcissists and controlling people like to have this very kind of narrow world that they construct, and people that come into their experience to coexist with them in some way have to fit that narrow confine. And if you don't, they soon repel you. Or maybe it's better to say you repel each other, because you either won't accept it or they won't accept it. The problem is, if you get very close to the narcissist, and then you have that natural, when you're having a relationship, in any type of interpersonal relationship, when you have this genuine interpersonal relationship, there's always going to be give and take. But that can be a good thing. There's always going to be this, attempt at understanding the person you're dealing with, and they understand you. And you have some give and take. You have some compromise. With a narcissist, there's no such thing as a compromise. They might pretend at the beginning that they have the ability to compromise, that they're willing to compromise. But that's just because at the beginning they're telling you everything they think you want to hear, and they're just playing their cards in the best way to ensnare you, to get you in their just in their orbit. But every step that you take closer to them, they try to restructure your personality, restructure your behaviors, restructure how the things you do or say to them, or the things or the people you might hang out with, or anything about your life that you would have otherwise done. They gradually get you to fear, to worry about doing anything that might upset them, that might cause them to give off an uneasy vibe towards you, or maybe might even cause them to snap at you, because they're trying to mold you into someone that fits their narrowly confined world, which they feel they have full control over. Again, with narcissists and controlling people, it's all about control. And most of the time, narcissists don't even realize that they're doing that. The thing is, if a narcissist feels like they don't have full control over the person and situation, they start losing it themselves. They start falling apart emotionally. They start feeling endangered. They start feeling that, there's some kind of threat. Because narcissists, when they're not in control, they feel awful. That's why they're so controlling. That's why they're so manipulative. But that's also why they can't have healthy relationships with people. And that's also why they tend to live in a very small world. Because you can control a very small world, but you can't control a big world. The moment and one thing that narcissists struggle to do is they struggle to have this general trust that, well-being abounds, that everybody can succeed, even if you're giving and taking a bit. If you take the example of a romantic relationship, You can have a give and take where both people are feeling good about it. You can meet each other halfway where both people are happy, where you have that fulfillment coming from it. And that's how, that's what life's supposed to be. We were not born into this world to isolate ourselves into a very small world where we don't make use of the best things that the world has to offer, which are these rich interpersonal relationships, because that's what makes us social human beings. Otherwise we'd be robots. We'd be programmed to do A, B, C each day and live in a very confined world, and we only invite people into our world that fits that strict confine. Like, that's not in my view, that's not a very healthy way to live. But narcissists, being very controlling, people who come into their lives need to be extremely submissive. So, if you're thinking from your perspective, if you're with somebody where you feel they're constantly doing and saying things that trigger in you certain emotional reactions, things like maybe confusion, doubt, anxiety, that's a controlling approach, because by triggering those feelings in you, the person is causing you to adjust your behaviors so that maybe, the narcissist will no longer cause you to feel that way in their response. So they're kind of guiding you slowly to fit their narrowly confined world. And sometimes they'll just be straight out passive aggressive or give you the silent treatment because you did something that they were not happy with. And then next time you'll be more careful not to do that. You're adjusting your behaviors to fully appease them. So when you're dealing with a narcissist, you're constantly getting that feedback from them, where if you were to look through all the chaos and noise, what they're really trying to do is they're trying to mold you into the perfect supply that's fully submissive, fully controllable, fully manipulatable, but doesn't pose any form of threat to them. Because narcissists do want supply, but they want people who they feel they can fully control. And when they can't fully control the person, there's that natural repulsion where it's just like anti-magnetism. It just doesn't fit. So there's narcissists at the beginning, they're kind of magnetic to pull people in, but then very soon the dynamic becomes anti-magnetic because the narcissist mentally constructed world isn't really the real world. And it doesn't matter how many times their life experience shows them that the two worlds are different. They don't change their behaviors, and that's at the core of NPD. People, the narcissists, they're unable to change. But that's why they end up living unfulfilling lives, because there's the internal barriers, the maladaptive coping mechanisms that they would have constructed over the course of their life, in particular around control and not ever wanting to feel vulnerable, means, okay, if you're never ever going to feel vulnerable, then you're going to live in an itty bitty tiny world. If theoretically, if the person were to, theoretically, if the narcissist could step out of that and just kind of gain trust that the universe has their back, that they can trust their instincts and maybe live in a bigger world, more fulfilling world, inviting more fulfilling interpersonal interactions. In theory, if they could reach that point in their mind where there is a possibility where there's a win-win situation, even if they don't have full control of the other person, then they could live a better life. But at the core of narcissistic personality disorder is this inflexibility for change. It's this inflexibility for true introspection. So that's why when you're thinking, when you're in a narcissistic relationship, and maybe you're thinking, maybe you can make it work. Maybe you can help the person change for the better. Of course, that can never really happen, because you can't change a narcissist. You might think you understand them well enough that you can live a life that suits them, that can keep the relationship together. But you're giving everything. You're giving up all your freedom of mind, your identity, your health, your emotional health, your psychological health. You're giving up everything to try to conform to them. And even by doing that, they're still not satisfied, because the moment you fully converge to them, they would still devalue you and possibly even discard you, because at some point they'll see there's nothing further, there's no further supply to be taken from you, or at least not the rich supply, because they've they've abused you to the point where you really are a shell of your former self. So no matter how you look at it, you cannot make a relationship with a narcissist work. You can't change them. You can't understand the personality disorder well enough to make it work with them. You can't sacrifice enough to make it work with them. It's just, there's nothing really that you can do to make it work. They don't compromise. They must have full control over you. And each step of the way where you go trying to please them further, you think you're pleasing them, but that feeling of them being pleased lasts only for like a few seconds or moments. And then they're thinking, okay, now what? Now what can I take? How can I get the next burst of supply out of this person? They're going to reach a point where they've taken all the supply they can take out of you, because you've tried to give them your all, and then at that point they realize you have nothing left to offer, so they don't need you anymore. So yeah, just don't delude yourself that you can possibly change certain people. It's never going to happen. I mean, it's just never going to happen. And it's don't even judge it. It just is what it is, just having that understanding is great, because you can make more decisions that are better for you. And you can obviously wish if you care about the narcissist, you can wish them well, but wish them well from a distance, and keep living your life with purpose, and doing the things that give you purpose, and all of the fulfilling interactions that are available to you, all the people in your life that do give you that fulfillment. Just focus on them. And occasionally, if you maybe you feel sorry for the narcissist, or you wish you could help but no, you can't, just maybe send them a positive vibe from a distance, and just keep it at that.